Have you ever felt like the background character in your own family story? Like your role was pre-written? Not as the star, but as the ever-reliable supporting act? I know that feeling better than anyone. And I finally found the answer to a question I didn't even know I was asking. What happens when the person everyone depends on suddenly chooses themselves? My name is Elizabeth. I was born into what seemed like an ordinary suburban family. Two parents, two daughters, and a home filled with the smell of weekend pancakes and the chatter of everyday life. But beneath that familiar warmth was a dynamic that shaped every inch of my existence. My older sister, Kate, was the golden child, the sun our family revolved around. Her accomplishments, her dreams, her future, those were the pillars of our household. I was everything else. The helper, the one who understood, who adapted, who stepped aside. It started small, like these things often do. When I was 10, I watched my parents re-ice Kate's leftover graduation cake and present it as my birthday dessert, her name still faintly visible under the new frosting. I laughed along because that was my role. But moments like that stack up, don't they? Missed ceremonies, hand-me-downs, a quiet erasure of my needs and achievements in favor of hers. By the time we were adults, the pattern was set in stone. Kate married, had twins, and the gravity around her only grew stronger. I became the free babysitter, the emergency contact, the fail-safe when plans fell through. My weekends, my holidays, my quiet moments, all absorbed into the needs of a family that seemed to believe my time was less valuable because I didn't have children of my own. But here's the twist. People like me, the ones who say yes, who carry the weight, who never complain, we sometimes snap. We reach a breaking point. And when we finally choose ourselves, the fallout is far greater than anyone expects. My breaking point came disguised as something ordinary. A vacation. A simple trip to the beach, my first in years. But that trip turned into my quiet rebellion. The first time I chose freedom over family expectations. It wasn't just a getaway, it was my escape route. And it changed everything. What happens when the reliable one says no? You lose more than a helper. You lose the person who held everything together. And sometimes, the one who walks away finds something they never expected. Themselves. This is my story. Family favoritism is not always easy to see from the outside, but from within, it colors every aspect of life. My story began in 1995, the year I turned 10, and the year my birthday cake was a repurposed relic from my sister Kate's graduation. That day planted a seed of understanding in me, a realization that my place in the family hierarchy was secondary. The years that followed built upon that foundation. By 2003, when I was finishing high school, my achievements were whispered in the shadows of Kate's victories. While I proudly displayed a certificate from a regional art competition, my parents were helping Kate prepare for college entrance interviews. Their attention was focused on her future, while mine was something I navigated largely alone. Experts suggest that favoritism in families can cause long-term harm to the overlooked child. A 2013 study from the Journal of Marriage and Family found that children who perceive themselves as less favored by their parents often experience depression and lower self-esteem well into adulthood. I didn't know those statistics back then, but I felt their truth every day. When Kate left for college in 2004, our family poured resources into her success. She received a new car, the best dorm essentials, and tutoring support. Meanwhile, I took the bus to my part-time job, saving every penny to afford tuition at a public university. By 2008, when I graduated, I was balancing student loans and work fatigue, while Kate was thriving in her dream career with help from our parents' network. The disparities grew as we aged. In 2015, when Kate had twins, our parents tapped into their retirement savings to help her and her husband buy a house. That same year, when I asked for temporary financial help after a medical bill left me strapped, I was told, "We can't afford it right now." These choices were not made with cruelty, but their impact was clear. My needs were negotiable. Kate's were prioritized. Every holiday, every celebration revolved around her growing family. My contributions were expected but seldom acknowledged. Psychologists describe this dynamic as low-status child syndrome. Dr. Susan Newman, a social psychologist, emphasizes that children assigned this role often internalize it, carrying feelings of inadequacy into their adult lives. By 2022, I was not only my sister's emergency babysitter, but also the person who postponed vacations, declined promotions, and let my own life shrink to accommodate hers. The breaking point came last summer. The beach trip was meant to be my reward for years of loyalty. But, like clockwork, my family saw it as another opportunity for me to serve. When my mother said the twins would love the beach, the message was clear. My rest, my independence, my dreams were still secondary. That was the moment I decided to reclaim my story, to step out of the supporting role and into my own life. And as I made that choice, I realized something else. When you've spent decades being the reliable one, choosing yourself is not selfish. It's survival. Emotional manipulation is a subtle force, often disguised as love or concern. It doesn't always arrive as harsh words or shouting. Sometimes it wears the gentle face of family obligations. In my case, it was the quiet insistence that I put everyone else first. When I was asked to watch the twins just for a few hours, it seemed innocent. When those few hours turned into entire weekends, it felt like duty. And when I voiced exhaustion, my mother's gentle reminder, that's what family does, disguised obligation as affection. The struggle to establish personal boundaries is one of the hardest battles a person can face. Setting limits is not simply about saying no. It is about defining who you are and what you value. For me, boundaries became the invisible fence protecting my time, energy, and identity. The absence of limits had allowed my life to be absorbed by others. I said yes to every favor, task, and plea, believing it was expected of me. My availability became their convenience. Every unanswered phone call brought guilt. Every refusal stirred anxiety. Experts in personal development, like Dr. Henry Cloud, emphasize that boundaries are the foundation of healthy relationships. They clarify expectations, prevent resentment, and foster respect. Without them, individuals often feel exploited and emotionally depleted. Learning to defend my space was not immediate. The first time I declined a family request, my hands trembled. My heart raced. But as I persisted, I realized that setting boundaries did not diminish my love. It preserved it. Protecting my well-being allowed me to give genuinely when I chose to, rather than out of obligation. Clear limits transformed my life. I gained control over my schedule, my career flourished, and I rediscovered joy in hobbies long forgotten. Boundaries became my liberation, the key that unlocked a future built on choice rather than duty. Choosing yourself is not abandonment. It is an act of self-preservation. When we honor our own needs, we teach others how to value us. Sometimes, loving those around us means stepping back and allowing them to grow without us holding everything together. Real love thrives not in sacrifice alone, but in balance and freedom. True freedom begins when we give ourselves permission to matter. If this story made you reflect on your own journey, take a moment to like, subscribe, and join the conversation below. Let's support each other as we learn to put ourselves first.